magandang gabi, magandang umaga at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat sa anumang parte ng mundo kayo naroon ngayon. Ito po ang inyong lingkod, si Ala Joji Borromeo, at kasama ko ang bumubuo sa Polo WDC na pinapangunahan ng aming Labor Attaché, si Attorney Angela Trinidad, ang ating OWA Welfare Officer, si Ms. Josephine Tobia, si Ms. Eliza Lucido, si Ms. Miriam Nicolas at si Mr. Oliver Flores. Narito din po ang ating Consul General, si Attorney JB Chan Gonzaga. Kasama din po natin ang ating mga Philcom leaders at ang ating mga kababayang seafarers. At kasama din po natin si Ms. Josephine Olasco Castillo, ang Chief Maritime Development Specialist ng Marina. Mamaya po ay makikilala natin ang ating mga panauhing pandangal at ngayong gabi po ay tutunghayan natin ang panibagong serye ng ating webinar sa buwan ng Setyembre na pinamagatang How to Be You po. At bago po natin ipagpapatuloy, ay nais ko pong tawagin ang ating Labor Attaché, si Labat Angela Trinidad, para sa kanyang pambungad na pagbati. Labat?
Salamat, Ala Joji. Magandang umaga, magandang gabi at magandang hapon sa inyong lahat, lalong-lalo na sa ating mga suking Philcom leaders na nandito, Conjen Gonzaga, ang ating mga speakers na ipapakilala mamaya. Gusto lang natin i-explain konti kung bakit How to Be You po ito. Ito ay hango sa common and very famous status update sa Facebook. Marami tayong nag-Facebook at maraming gusto social media. At kung meron tayong gustong tao or gustong skill or character na isang tao, tinatanong natin how to be you. No? In this series of webinars for the month of September, we will be featuring the different sectors of our belonging to the OFW. No? Marami tayong mga Pilipino na nagtatrabaho sa iba't ibang bansa at ikalalanin natin ito sila isa't isa. Pero sa ngayong buwan, gusto nating ipakilala at gusto nating malaman kung ano ba ang mga karapatan at ano ba ang mga issues at pangunahing concerns ng ating sektor na ito ay ang ating mga seafarers, no, in line with the celebration of the National Seafarers Day based on a proclamation issued by then President Ramos at ginawang National Seafarers Day every last Sunday ng Setyembre. So, in line with the celebration of the National Seafarers Day and also with the Maritime Awareness Month, we will be featuring our seafarers. So, gusto din natin ipaalam kung bakit una din ang nakita natin ng seafarers because during the pandemic, even if we say that the OFWs are the hardest hit, one of the hardest hit in these times of pandemic, ang ating seafarers po ang isa sa pinakamalaking sektor na naapektuhan nito. No? When these seafarers were on the seas, more than the required number of months, when they were homesick and when they are unsure of what can happen to them, ito po ang na-experience ng ating mga seafarers. And in fact, in Washington, we have in coordination with the U.S. officials and agencies and the Philippine Embassy, Polo and the Consular Office has facilitated the repatriation of more than 18,000 seafarers. And thankfully, most of them are home and most of them have joined their families in the Philippines. So, ngayong gabing po ito, ang ating mga panauhin ay mag-discuss kung ano ba ang ano bang rights ng ating mga seafarers, how do you become a seafarer, and how will you be protected adequately as a seafarer. So without further ado, I welcome you to this webinar and focus group discussion, and I hope today's activity will be as productive and fruitful as the last webinars that we had. And please join us as we discuss all these issues tonight. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga, magandang gabi at magandang hapon.
Maraming salamat, Labat. Ang layunin po ng webinar na ito ay pagbibigay pugay sa ating mga kababayang marino na nabibilang sa malaking industriya na naapektuhan sa pandemyang kinakaharap natin. Madami sa kanila ang nawalan ng trabaho at napauwi sa Pilipinas. Kaya't upang lalo pa nating mapalawak ang kaalaman ng bawat isa, mayroon tayong mga panauhin ngayong gabi na magbabahagi ng kanilang kadalubhasaan sa mga alituntunin at batas na gumagabay at sumasaklaw sa karapatan ng ating mga marino. Ngunit bago po natin tawagin ang ating unang tagapagsalita, meron lamang po tayong maikling house rules na katulad po ng dating webinars natin. Pagkatapos po lahat ng ating mga speakers, magkakaroon tayo ng open forum. At yung mga nasa Zoom, pwede kayong mag-raise ng inyong mga kamay at pwede kayong magtanong. At kung nahihiya naman po kayo, maaari kayong mag-type sa chat box at sabihin nyo lamang po sino po sa ating tatlong speakers ang gusto nyong sumagot sa inyong mga katanungan. At ngayon po, hindi na po natin patatagalin. At before that, Labat, I just would like also to recognize, okay, nasabi ko na po yata si Ms. Castillo kanina. So now, we will now have the first topic for tonight. Ang title po ng first topic natin is What is the process of recruitment and deployment of seafarers? Ang ating pong tagapagsalita ay siyang officer in charge ng Sea-Based Division ng POEA. Wala pong iba kundi si Director Augusto B. San Diego. Sir.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction, Ala Joji. No, but first and foremost, I would like to say congratulations to the team for having such webinar for our Filipino community there in the United States. Of course, my hello and good evening and good morning to Conjen Gonzaga, to the OWA officers there, sa ating pong mga co-resource person for this webinar at sa ating pong mga kababayan. Muli, magandang umaga po mula dito sa Pilipinas and good evening po dyan sa inyo. Alam ko with your hectic schedules and it's Saturday there. Most of the people there will be having their rest day. Pero ang ating pong mga masisipag na taga Philippine Embassy at ang ating pong polo ay patuloy na nagbibigay serbisyo sa ating pong mga kababayan. Yan po ay nakakataba ng puso at nakakakiliti sa aming pong pandinig dito sa Pilipinas na talaga pong gumagawa kayo ng pamamaraan despite that we are in the pandemic and still you continue to service our Filipino community. Okay, tama po kayo dyan na ang aming pong pag-uusapan from the POA is all about the facilitation and the documentation of overseas Filipino workers, particularly our seafarers. And I would like also to introduce to our Filipino community what is POEA. Lagi naman nilang sinasabi, ano ba yung POEA? Si POEA ba ipahirap sa aming buhay? Sa lahat po ng mga nakapag-abroad na ng mga workers natin ay dadaan sa POEA. Kaya ang tingin nila sa POEA ay pahirap sa kanila. Because they don't realize how important the agency is in protecting their rights, protecting their safety, protecting their welfare. At katuwang po natin sa pagbibigay protection sa ating mga gagawa ay ang ating pong polo. Malalaman niyo po mamaya kung bakit nagsisimula ang migration cycle natin sa overseas ay sa polo. So napakahalaga po na ginagawa po ng ating pong Philippine Overseas Labor Office para maprotektahan ng ating pong mga manggagawa. But anyhow, as the first slide shows, it's Pre-Employment Services Office because the PSO is one of the offices. In the structure of the POEA, ang PSO po ay isang opisina na kung saan siya po ang namamahala ng pa-facilitate at pagdodokumento ng ating mga manggagawang umaalis papunta sa ibang bansa para magsilbi o magtrabaho. Second slide, please. As I have said, I wanted to introduce to you in a nutshell what is POEA. Of course, POEA is a government body that regulates the Overseas Employment Program. And the core functions of the POEA is the licensing and regulation or the industry regulation. We have the employment facilitation and of course the workers protection. For the licensing and regulation, ang nag-handle po nito ay ang aming pong LRO office. Ano bang ginagawa nila? As you know already, na bago makaalis ang ating mga manggagawa dito sa Pilipinas, sila po ay nag-a-apply sa kalimitan, either sa land-based agencies o sa sea-based agencies, Philippine recruitment agencies. And prior to their deployment or prior that an agency can recruit, it has to pass a process where they have to secure a license. So binibigyan natin sila ng lisensya para makapag-participate po sila sa Overseas Employment Program. At nang sa ganun din naman, mamonitor natin kung ano ang ginagawa ng mga ahensya nito. So kung sila po ay talipandas ng mga ahensya na yan at hindi tumutugon sa kabutihan ng ating pong mga Pilipinong manggagawa, nandiyan po yung adjudication office to protect our workers. So we will be filing charges against these erring agencies para either they will be cancelled, suspended, so they can no longer be participating in the overseas employment program. Okay. So, sa adjudication office, as I mentioned, hindi din lang naman ang ahensya ang binibigyan natin ng suspension o cancellation. Nandyan din naman na meron din naman kasi mga sakit sa ulo natin mga manggagawa, so nabibigyan din sila ng mga disciplinary actions. So, ang adjudication office din po ang tumutugon o tumitingin sa mga kaso na yan. But for the presentation of this morning, magsisiro in po tayo sa Pre-Employment Services Office where we do the employment facilitation. Ang Pre-Employment Services Office ay nahahati sa iba't ibang branches or divisions. We have the land-based, I think last time yung discussions ninyo yung land-based. Meron din naman tayong sea-based, where it's my branch office. We have the balik manggagawa and the marketing. So in a summary, the functions of the pre-employment, we do accreditation, registration of foreign principals, we document Filipino workers, and of course, for our marketing group, they do the labor market information function. So yun po yung ating pong core functions sa POEA. Next slide please. As you can see in this slide, ladies and gentlemen, it's our pre-COVID-19 deployment of seafarers. Sinasabi ko na po sa inyo, for this year, we might be having a decline in our deployments, because for the several months na hindi po tayo nakapagpadala, because of the pandemic, because of the COVID-19. So, apektado talaga ang ating deployment. Nonetheless, I just wanted to show to you how we progressed from 2017 to 2019 in terms of deployment of seafarers. So for 2017, we have 449,463 seafarers. We also have 518 in 2018, and last year, 2019, we surpassed our 2018 deployment. Nakapag-deploy po tayo ng 519,031. But these figures are still preliminary data as we still have to finalize at titignan pa natin yung mga ibang mga datos para maging finalize ang data natin dahil maraming proseso po yung pagtingin ng ating pong mga datos. Yung pong deployment na yan ay halo-halo na po yan. Meron pong mga traditional positions. Pag sinabi po natin traditional vessels, ito po yung mga tankers, containers na mga vessels po. Kasama din po dyan yung mga shipping vessels natin, yung ating mga fishers, and at the same time, malaki po na chunk sa deployment natin ay galing po sa cruise ships, cruise ship lines. So, alam naman natin na naapektuhan ng ating cruise ships. So, the decline may be attributed because of the cruise industries, na talagang lubhang na apektuhan. So, that is the picture of our statistics. But if you will be asking me, how many is the total deployment between the land-based and the sea-based? Naglalaro po tayo sa 2 million but for last year, I think it's less than 2 million, it's 1.9. 74% comprises land-based deployment. So, ang deployment po ng sea-based ay maliit kumpara sa land-based, around 24 to 27% lamang sa kabuuan ng ating pong deployment figures. So, yun po yung ating pong statistics that might interest you. Next slide, please. Now, this is very important because we would wanted to show to you how the migration cycle for our OFW starts. Saan ba nagsisimula yung ating pong pagde-deploy ng ating pong manggagawa? Nabanggit ko kanina na bakit napakahalaga ang ating pong Philippine Overseas Labor Office or ating pong POLO. As you can see in the presentation, the documents that has to be submitted by a principal or employer to the licensed manning agency na tinitignan yan ng ating pong POLO. Nandiyan ang special power of attorney, manning agreement, business registration, at manpower through request ng employer or principal. Mahalaga itong mga dokumento na ito kasi nakapaloob dyan yung mga agreements ng both parties ng License Manning Agency and the principal, the responsibilities and their duties with regard to their services with each other, plus how they can protect the seafarers that they will be getting or deploying. So nandyan po yan. Yan ay binubusisi ng ating pong polo. Iniisa-isa po nila yan ng mabuti para hindi malusutan at hindi yan makalampas sa mata ng ating pong mga labor attaches. Okay, so in this cycle, the employer who seeks to employ Filipino seafarers has to go, and those documents, he has to bring that to our Philippine Embassy or our Philippine Overseas Labor Office for authentication or verification. But I just wanted to emphasize that the POLO verification is the requirement of the POEA. So gusto natin na yung mga dokumento na yan ay ma-verify ng ating Philippine Overseas Labor Office. Why do we have to undergo the POLO verification process? Simply lamang, because our labor attaches or our POLO would wanted to ensure that there is really an existing job and existing principal or employer na pagdating dyan ng worker natin ay meron sasalo at may kakayanan para paswelduhan at mabigyan proteksyon ang ating pong mga manggagawa. Yan po ay sinisiguro po ng ating polo na hindi po talaga nadedehado ang ating mga manggagawa. So mahalaga po ang ginagawang trabaho ng ating polo kasi nagdidepende po kami. Kung ano pong ipapasa ng polo sa aming dokumento, yan po ay aming nire-respeto, yan po ay tinitignan namin na yan po ay nabusisi na po ng ating pong Philippine Overseas Labor Office. Minor review na lang yung ginagawa po ng POEA. Kung meron po may mga query na gagawin namin, binabalik po namin, kino-compliance po ng POEA yan. At ang ginagawa naman ng mga license manning agencies is to advise their principal to go back and review their documents and again to be verified by the polo. For most of the time, wala na hong problema kasi na review na ng ating pong polo. So after giving those documents to our Philippine Overseas Labor Office or our Philippine Embassy for possible authentication, the principal nows, pag yan ay natatakan na ng ating labat, ng ating labor attaches, the employer now will provide those documents to the License Manning Agency or to the LMA, and that the verification, the accreditation process starts. Dahil dadalhin na ng License Manning Agency yung mga dokumento na yan sa POEA. So after verification of documents, POEA accredits foreign principal employer by the POEA. So we provide accreditation certificate to the License Manning Agency where it already signals that they can already recruit a seafarer for that particular principal or employer. And after that, the LMA now will do the recruitment or does the recruitment selection of Filipino workers for their principal and employer. This might interest our listeners, how to be you, how to become a seafarer. Of course, depende yan kung ano po ba yung interest ng isang marino. Kung ikaw ay nakapag-graduate ng either you are maritime engineer o yung tinatawag na, kasi there are two departments ng ating pong traditional vessels. Either they will be working under the engine or either they will be working in a deck department. So yung deck department, yun yung nagiging kapitan. Yung engine department, yung chief engineer, yung pinakamataas nila na positions. Okay, so the selection will be done by the License Manning Agency. Graduate ka, mag-a-apply ka ngayon sa isang manning agency. And that they will be assessing with your qualifications, whether you are fit. And qualifications doesn't only entail academic credentials. Maraming tinitignan ang ating pong mga manning agency sa pagkuha ng kanilang mga workers. When we talk about fitness, it doesn't only talk about academic credentials, it talks also about your work experience, it talks also about emotional fitness, your medical fitness or your physical fitness, psychological fitness, and at the same time, your competencies and trainings that you have attended. Sa seafarer, napaka-stricto po ng ating pong marina sa pagpapatupad po ng STCW, yung ating standards. And that all seafarers must undergo the required trainings and licensing, no, for them to have such to have that specific positions that they are applying as a seafarer. So ganun po, no, yung pagtingin natin sa pagse-select o pag-recruit ng ating pong mga seafarer. So once we have determined the fitness of the seafarer, we now start the documentation. No, ito na pumapasok ang POEA na naman sa buhay po ng ating mga seaman. So the licensed manning agency will now process or submits to POEA the employment contract with the minimum standard requirements. Gusto kong ipaalam sa inyo na ang pong kaiba ang land-based sa sea-based. Dahil ang sea-based po, may tinatawag po tayong standard terms and conditions. So we have the standard employment contract that is true to everyone. No, even you are an officer or a ratings, iisa po ang pinapatupad nating standard terms and conditions para sa ating pong mga marino. This is one way also to protect all our seafarers. So after we have the document, no, at ang pagdodokumento po ng ating pong mga seafarers, they don't really have to go to POEA because all of the licensed manning agencies are given the privilege to process their own recruits, no, within their sphere or within their offices via the POPC or via the in-house processing. Meaning, meron na po tayong online services provided to these agencies that they don't have to queue in POEA for them to process their documents. So within their work offices, nakakapag-process po sila 24/7. So they can deploy their seafarers at whatever time they would wanted to. No? Except no, for those seafarers na may mga problema sa kanilang mga records o mga may mga hit, no, yung kanilang mga pangalan sa adjudication office natin and that they need to be cleared, they have to go to POEA as well as the fishers. Kasi yung fishers natin, we still ask not the licensed manning agencies to bring their documents to POEA. Kasi ang ating mga fishers, no, pagtingin natin dyan, para rin silang kategorya ng mga domestic helper. So they are vulnerable sectors. So we would really wanted to really review and protect our fishers as well. So after they have already documented and we find the contracts in order, so we now issue the overseas employment certificate, and everybody know what is the OEC. No, but for those who doesn't know, the OEC is issued to the agency for the worker, and the OEC is valid for 60 days. So meaning, so the manning agency are supposed to deploy their seafarers within the 60-day period. No, hindi dapat lumagpas diyan. No, pag na-process mo ngayon yung kontrata mo at nabigyan ka ng OEC ng POEA, no, expect that within 60 days, yan po ay makakaalis na ang ating pong mga manggagawa. No, or else they have to report to POEA the non-deployment of the seafarers if they fail to deploy within that 60-day period. So, alam din naman po natin, no, yung pong importansya po ng ating pong OEC because the overseas employment certificate serves, no, as the exit clearance of our seafarers. Now, after they have already completed the cycle, no, they already have their documents, no, everything is in order, so the worker may now proceed to the airport and be deployed. But the responsibility of the manning agency doesn't stop, no, in the deployment, but rather nagsisimula pa lamang yan kasi they still have to be monitoring their deployed workers or their deployed seafarers. And any maritime incidents that happen to the seafarer must be reported to POEA within 5 days. No, yun po yung regulations natin. So as I've been mentioning, the overseas employment serves an exit clearance, and at the same time, the OEC is a document issued, no, to our OFWs, which serves as proof that the worker has been processed by the POEA or the POLO. So departing OFWs, whether new hire, balik manggagawa, seafarers, required to secure an OEC which serves as an exit clearance and as exemption from the payment of the travel tax and the airport terminal fee. So wala pong binabayaran taxes sa airport ang ating pong mga seafarers. Okay, next slide please. On the accreditation of principals, I may not be, relying or discussing much on this, but I just wanted to emphasize that a principal may be accredited to a maximum of 3 licensed manning agencies. So should our Filipino community would want to be a principal, or they might be the ship owner, or the ship manager, so they can act as a principals, so they can choose a maximum of 3 manning agencies to cater to the needs, no, of that particular principal. However, no, for the traditional vessels, dapat yung 3 agencies na sinelect niya, may kanya-kanyang unique vessels. Na it can never be 1 vessel to 3 manning agencies. Hindi po pwede. Dapat may tig-isa silang vessel, no, for them to be accredited by the POEA. Okay? So, next slide please. We do also allow the transfer of accreditation. So, principal and ship may be transferred to another agency provided that such transfer shall not involve diminution of wages and benefits of the crew, and the transferee agency shall execute an affidavit of assumption of full responsibility over the crew deployment by the previous agency, particularly Section 103 of the POEA Rules and Regulations, no? Yung pong sinasabi natin ng transfer of accreditations, including Section 105 as well of the POEA Rules. Okay. Validity of accreditation is 4 years unless sooner revoked or cancelled by the administration. So 4 po na taon na pwede pong mag-recruit o kumuha ng ating mga manggagawa ang ating pong mga principals, ng ating pong employers. However, no, for seafarers or the industry, the maritime industry, we are providing 90 days provisional accreditation if in cases the principal was not able to secure the verification of the polo. No, iniintindi din natin, especially now na may mga problema tayo in accessing some services of some polos because of the pandemic. So we do require 90-day provisional, but they can already recruit or they can already get seafarers. They can only upgrade it into full license or full accreditation once we obtain already the verified SPA and manning agreement of the principal and the licensed manning agency. So that's the validity of accreditation. For the standard employment contract, how I wish that I can provide each one a copy of the standards. However, I would wanted you to visit our website should you wish to get a copy of the standard terms and conditions governing the overseas employment of Filipino seafarers. And of course, a sample of the one-page covering employment contract. Yung standards, nandoon yung the full text of the contract. So, nandoon yung mga benefits, no, yung mga when did contracts commence, yung repatriation clause, yung mga safety clauses, yung mga benefits pag namatay, no, pag nagkasakit, no, nakapaloob po dyan sa standard terms and conditions natin. And for the information of our listener, no, they might be interested if in cases of, you know, mga sickness, death benefits, no, meron po tayong mga grades. No, alam ni attorney yung mga grades, no, master niya yan because he's been assisting, no, our seafarers, no, in claiming kung sila po yung nagkasakit, naputulan ng daliri, no, naging fully incapacitate na sila. So may mga degree po, no, na kanilang mga benefits. But for those death cases, it is expected that a family can receive as high as $50,000 US. No, that's the contract. No, $50,000 US as benefit, no, for death claims, no, ng ating pong mga seafarers, as well as yung mga 4 na anak nila na below 18 are entitled as well of entitled ng $7,000 each plus 100,000 burial expenses. Yun po yung mga simple informations, no, what are the benefits of our seafarers. So better, no, it's your assignment to go over the standards and you may review it. I've been mentioning a while ago that a manning agency was given the privilege to have their in-house processing facilities. Ito po yun, no, in-house processing for e-submission, so they purchase their OEC so that they can process 24/7. However, we also have our regular processing at POA for those watch-listed seafarers, those seafarers na fishers, no, under the fisher category. So yan po ay pupunta sa POA under our regular processing. Period to deploy, as I mentioned, is 60 days because that's the validity of the OEC. So it's expected that a seafarer must leave within the 60-day after they have been processed by the licensed manning agencies. Recruitment cost. Next slide, please. No, this might also interest our listeners. For manning fees, no, definitely that is not charged to the worker. This is charged to the principal. So yung licensed manning agency shall charge from their principal employers manning fee to cover services rendered in the recruitment and deployment of seafarers. And for your information as well, for seafarers, licensed manning agencies or principals shall not be charging placement fee. Wala pong binabayarang placement fee ang ating pong mga seafarer. So for the information of everyone, if in cases that licensed manning agencies, kung yung kaanak nyo po ay sinisingil o hinihingan po yung ating pong mga Filipino community naman placement daw nila, no, sa pagpaproseso sa licensed manning agencies, yan po hindi po totoo. No, kung yan po ay paglabag, no, dapat po ay sinasangguni na po natin sa POEA, sinusumbong na po natin sa POEA so that we can call the attention of the licensed manning agencies. Okay, for cost fees, again, chargeable to the principal. The pre-employment medical or the PEME is charged to the principal. The POEA processing and OWA fees, contributions, yan po ay charge sa principal. Visas, no, yan din po ay charge, no, sa ating pong principal, yung pagkuha ng mga US Embassy visa, pagkuha ng visa sa US Embassy dito, yan po ay charge sa principals. Employers flag state ship requirements, employers requirement trainings and other requirements are still chargeable to the principal employer. For the seafarers, ano po ba na-charge sa kanya? Definitely yung mga basic documents such as yung passport, yung kanyang SIRB o yung seaman's book niya, NBI, birth certificate, yung academic credentials niya, certificates, plus yung license niya, yan po ay sagutin po yan ng seaman. No, kung generous yung principal or licensed manning agency, pwede din naman nilang bayaran o sponsor. So for processing fees at POEA, so we are just charging 100 pesos po yung pagpaproseso po natin. If it's re-engaged, 200 pesos lamang po sa engage. So ito po ay hindi binabayaran ng seaman ha, ito po ay binabayaran ng employer. And of course, the OWA membership which is valid for 2 years, which is $25. So yan din po ay binabayaran ng ating pong principal. So wala pong binabayaran ulit ang ating mga seafarers. Sa process cycle time natin dito sa POEA, how are we handling? No, prior to the new normal, this is our process cycle time. No, we have 5 working days for the new accreditation together with the renewal. Enrollment of ship is 2 working days. For contract processing that is being done by the POEA office is just 4 hours. However, for this new normal that we have adjusted our PCT already. Kasi we have to observe some protocols. So napahaba po yung ating pong pagpoproseso. But still, no, we would wanted to assure that the public that there will be no delays in the deployment of our seafarers as we adhere to the green lane. No, we already have issued an interagency issuance on the green lane or yung pagpoproseso ng crew change. So we really have to make things fast to help our industry, no, in the crew change, no, yung pagde-deploy at pagpapauwi ng ating mga seafarers. Okay? So for the MC number 4, if they fail to deploy within the 60 days, they have to request to cancel the seafarers' documents and they have to report the reason why the non-deployment of the seafarers. This is one way also to protect our seafarers, lalo-lalo na yung mga may process contracts. Okay? I would wanted also to inform you that aside from the licensed manning agencies na binibigyan natin ng importansya or award, we also give recognition, no, to our employers or to our principals. We provide ministerial award, or we are giving the ministerial award every 2 years and the presidential award for every 6 years. And there are also incentives even cases that our principal employer receive such accolade, no? Maganda rin naman na nabibigyan natin recognitions yung ating mga foreign principals. Okay? For my last topic, I would wanted to just go over with the code of discipline for Filipino seafarers. So for those who are interested to become a Filipino seafarer, kung may kaanak man kayo, please tell them that we have certain code of conduct that they really have to adhere. No, kung hindi ho nila mako-comply ito, wag na ho silang maging seaman. Okay, obligations of our Filipino seafarers. It is the duty of all seafarers to conduct themselves in the most professional, responsible, and ethical manner in the performance of their duties and fulfill the following obligations. Their duty to the family. I think this is not, it doesn't go only to Filipino seafarers, but all Filipinos working abroad, that they also have the duty to their families to provide ample financial and moral support to his or her family in the Philippines, and to communicate with his or her family as often as she can make his or her presence felt, just as if when he or she is around. That is his duty to the family. Duty to the fellow seafarers to assist and cooperate with other contract seafarers working on the same ship, and to refrain from degrading a colleague in order to get a position or rank, or from putting a fellow seafarer in a bad light before his or her colleagues or supervisors. We also have the duty to the country. No? This is very important. No? Everyone of us has a duty to our country to uphold the ideals of the Republic of the Philippines and to defend it if warranted, to abide by the rules and regulations aimed at promoting the seafarers' interests and enhancing national gains, to be the ambassador of goodwill, projecting only the good in the Filipino and refrain from tarnishing the Filipino image abroad. Duty to manning agency and or the principal employer to provide the licensed manning agency and or principal employer with correct and true certifications regarding his her skill experience or experiences and other qualifications, and to understand and abide with the terms and conditions of the employment contract. Duty to manning agency on or principal employer to maintain high level of productivity as well as abide by company rules and regulations, to refrain from committing acts which are detrimental to the interests of her principal, to licensed money agencies during her documentary processing and employment. We also have the duty to the port state or to the flag state to respect the mores, customs, and traditions of the country, and to respect and obey the laws of the host country. So I think that's the code of discipline of our seafarers. Should you want further information about the POEA, about the maritime industry, and other regulations of the POEA, you may visit our website at the www.poe.gov.ph. It's very interactive website. Okay, I think that's all for today. Thank you very much. I do not know what will be the next. Maybe I'll be entertaining questions, or should there be any additional information that the attorney may wish to, because I really last night I've been contemplating really what to present to our Filipino community. So nag-zero in talaga ako sa mga bagay-bagay that may interest them or that might trigger interest on the topic, on how to become a seafarers. Okay, to answer before I really end my topic, how to be a seafarer. It's not so easy to become a seafarer. It's very difficult, because they really have to undergo a lot of process before they become a full-fledged seafarers. And at the same time, hindi po biro ang pagiging isang marino. Kahit ano naman naging trabaho natin, whatever career that we have decided to enter into, it's so difficult. Wala naman pong madaling trabaho. Ito lang ang tip namin sa mga nagnanais na maging marino, na sundin yung ating pong code of discipline. You will never go wrong. Tama ba ako doon, Labat, Angela, and Ala Joji? I think I'm giving back the floor to you guys. Thank you very much. And once again, good evening and good morning.
Labat?
Salamat, Director. Si Ala po ang ating
moderator
ng floor.
Okay. Salamat po, Director. We will reserve the questions po after at the end of the webinar po. Thank you. So we will now have our next speaker. She will be discussing about the updates of Marina. May we now call the Maritime Education and Training Standard Supervisor and concurrent OIC of the Marina Maritime Training Institute. May we now call on Miss Presca Lee B. Lugo. Ma'am.
Hello, good morning everyone.
Nakikita mo sa screen. Ang press cam.
Yeah, there you go.
Apa.
So, good morning, everyone. In behalf of our administrator, Vice Admiral Robert M. Pedrad, may I present to you updates from the Maritime Industry Authority in relation with your invitation. I like the tagline, how to be you po. This is really good. I have actually shared the page of your page, the Washington, POEA Washington, to a group of seafarers. I hope they are watching now. So, before I proceed, I would like to congratulate you for organizing this webinar. I have seen that this is a series. Pardon me, I have not been updated on the activities because we have a lot of activities ourselves in Marina. And by the way, I used to be part of the Dolly family. I used to be the Deputy Executive Director of the National Maritime Polytechnic. So before I joined Marina, my life really had been with the seafarers, particularly in their education and training. I am myself a trainer of trainers. So it is my honor to be part of this very important activity of yours. So what do we have as of this time? And I would like to thank Director Santiago for being the first presenter. He had already touched some of the things that I will be talking about. Before I'll talk about our certification and examination processes, allow us to introduce to you the Maritime Industry Authority. So in July 2012, by virtue of Executive Order 75, the Maritime Industry Authority became the single maritime administration responsible for the implementation and enforcement of the STCW Convention 1978 as amended. It used to be with the Maritime Training Council. We are very familiar with the POEA. The MTC used to be with the office was with the POEA before. So these are the things that we would like to share with you very, very quickly, Jobs. We'll just share with you our vision and mission, particularly so that the STCW function in Marina is relatively new. As I have said, Marina took over the function of the STCW as administration of STCW in July 2012. So allow us to share with you our vision and mission. Very quickly, we will show you our functional structure and then the implementation of the STCW itself, some organizational developments, and how we maintain and monitor the standards of our seafarers through revalidation of the certificates, and a little of the changes we have put in place because of the pandemic. So let us start with the vision and mission of Marina. So it is our vision to be the strong and dynamic maritime authority of the Philippines, because it is, as such, it is our mission to provide leadership in transforming the Philippines into a major maritime nation. While we are the #1 provider of seafarers in the world fleet, we would want also to show that we have more than just seafarers. We would like to show that we have leadership in transforming the Philippines. as a major maritime nation. So we have this structural functional structure of marina. As I have said, the STCW is relatively new. However, marina had already been part of the life of seafarers because marina had been the one issuing the used to be SIRB, and we call it now SRB, or the Seafarers Record Book, because we have separated already the seafarers identification document. We will discuss that in a little while. So there are three things. We have part of our structure is to look into the ships, where we have the shipyards regulation services. We have the domestic shipping service. We have the maritime safety service. We have franchising. We have also our overseas shipping service and our marina regional offices. Our marina regional offices also has a function. They also provide services for the seafarers. It's not only at the central office. So seafarers education and training and certification are administered, monitored, and supervised by the STCW office. The Manpower Development Service and MROs, which I've said, the issuance in relation with the issuance of their SRB and SID. And of course, we have our support services. Next slide. So what are we doing to implement the STCW? So the marina is mandated. As I have said that Marina took over the implementation of the STCW in July 2012 by virtue of Executive Order 75. However, in March of 2014, a law was enacted mandating Marina to be the single maritime administration through Republic Act 10635. So this is the law establishing the Marina as a single maritime administration. And that in relation with that, we have our implementing rules and regulations, which was issued in July 2014, which spells out the functions of the Marina in the implementation of the provisions of the STCW Convention. Hence, we have what we refer to as the STCW office, as you can see in the slide. So, the STCW office is in charge of the education, training, assessment, and certification of seafarers. On the top of the office, of course, we have our Marina administrator and the deputy administrators. But the one who runs our office is our executive director. We have also the deputy executive director. And we have what we call the panel of STCW experts, or POSE, wherein I am one of them. We are referred to collectively as POSE, as individuals who are referred to as METS, or Maritime Education Training Standards Supervisors. So it is our responsibility to conduct evaluation, inspection, monitoring, and also to do surveillance with our concerned division in terms of for the maritime schools. maritime training institutions and assessment centers. Also, under the STCW office, we have the Board of Examiners. As you may know, the function on examination and assessment was transferred from PRC to Marina. At this juncture, I would like to emphasize that Marina is not conducting a licensure examination. We are not doing any licensure examination, but rather we're conducting examination and assessment leading towards the issuance of certificate of proficiency and certificate of competency. And that's the job of our Board of Examiners. Likewise, to help in the operation of the STCW office, we have, as I was saying, different divisions. We have 12 of them as part of our office support. So that's our office. Oops, next slide, please. Okay, so just a glimpse of as to how we are doing to implement what we are doing to implement STCW. On the screen, you will see our comprehensive internal processes. Where at the end of the day, it is our target, or as everyone's would want to have, is to have a work class and competent seafarers. In order for us to have world-class and competent seafarers, we ensure that our input to this is the STCW convention, of course. And for the STCW to be properly implemented, we have localized laws, policies, and circulars. And we have admin and support services and resources. So the main objective of this framework is the issuance of certificate of competency, so that we will have, as I have said, world-class. So world-class seafarers, thus they need to be competent and qualified. So this framework is capsulized into 3 processes. We have the preparation, implementation, and evaluation. I've told you that we have in fact 12 divisions. So in the preparation, where we do analysis, design, and development, in charge of this is our research and development division, together with our METS, or the Maritime Education and Training Standards Supervisors, where we jointly initiate review of our international commitment, specifically the STCW. In case there are changes, we ensure that we take into account these changes and translate them into our policies and circulars. And then for the implementation, to ensure that the education and training, examination and assessment of our seafarers are properly structured. So we have our accreditation division, who ensures that only accredited and approved providers delivers Bachelors of Science in Maritime Education, the BSMT and BSMRE, together of course with CHED. No school is allowed to conduct these programs if they are not accredited by CHED and their program recognized both by Marina and CHED. And to ensure that they are, that includes also our maritime training institution or our training centers, including our assessment centers. They need to be approved by Marina before they are allowed to conduct training and assessment. That is why, for our seafarers who are listening, yung nakikinig po natin mga seafarers, siguraduhin po ninyo na kayo po ay nag-attend ng training doon lamang po sa mga NTI at sa mga assessment center na accredited, approved ng Marina. At ito po, ang listahan pong ito ay makikita ninyo sa aming website. Kasi po, pag hindi sila accredited, hindi sila approved, your certificate of training or certificate of assessment will not be accepted by Marina for the issuance of your COP and your COC. Lalo po sa panahon na to, kailangan talaga ninyo i-check na ang inyong mga training center or at saka mga assessment center ay talagang approved ni Marina. Likewise, para sa ating mga kadete, siguraduhin po ninyo na ang mga eskwelahan na pinapasukan ninyo ngayon, sila po ay nasa listahan ni CHED at Marina, which we refer to as they must have a government permit to operate and that their program must be recognized. So, as part of ensuring na tama po ang education and training ng ating mga seamen, meron po tayong monitoring division at surveillance, wherein ang monitoring division po natin ay meron po silang planned tsaka scheduled na visit ng ating mga institutions to determine kung talaga ginagawa nila ang conduct ng kanilang programs ng tama. On the other hand, in support of the monitoring division, we have the surveillance division. Itong surveillance division naman po natin, sila po ay authorized na pumunta sa mga institutions natin na hindi po siya nakaschedule. At any time, they may visit our institutions to determine compliance of our approved providers. So that's what we mean by evaluation. So ito po ang ating processes, and of course, we have our feedback mechanism. So in capsule, yan po ang ating ginagawa to ensure na ang seaman, once the seafarer receive their certificate, ang kanilang certificate po ay fully compliant with the STCW. Alright, so we are being asked as to how do we maintain and monitor the standards of our seafarers. The last, kumbaga, kung titingnan ninyo kung ang service ng Marina, ang end of the line natin is the certification division. So, kung ang accreditation division namin ay siya yung starting point ng aming services, sa certification division natin ang nasa dulo. This is a very crucial division because a seafarer who had been issued with certificate of proficiency or certificate of competency, it has to be, meaning they can now go on board. I normally say that after the education, the seafarer is now ready for assessment, and after the assessment, the seafarer is now ready for certification, and if the seafarer is already certified, the seafarer is now ready to be deployed or to be employed. So the certification division is the one issuing appropriate certificates. There are only 2 certificates that we issue, which we refer to as appropriate certificates. These are the certificate of proficiency and certificate of competency. Ang ating traditionally we refer to our seafarers as ratings and officers. Para po sa ating mga ratings, or we call them as the support level, we issue them COP or certificate of proficiency. Ang sa ating mga officers, we issue them certificate of competency, but they are required also to submit to us as a requirement for the issuance of COC. They are also issued with certificate of proficiency. So for them to be qualified seafarers and implement appropriate measures to ensure speedy, efficient, and effective certification processes. So, ang pinaka-busy po naming division talaga, even during the ECQ, ay ang ating certification division. Hindi po huminto ang Marina sa pag-issue ng certificate kahit noong naka-lockdown po tayo. Alright. Now, for the new, balik mo muna, Jo. For the new seafarers or the new entrants, I should say, even if they are still cadets, the first thing that they need to have is before they can be issued with the COP, they need first to get SRB or the Seafarers SRB record book, and then they will be issued with the COP. These are the first two documents that they must have for them to be able to go on board. And if they would want to become officers, after they finish their BSMT or BSMARI, they have to take an examination, both theoretical and practical. And once they pass the examination, and after they had complied with education and training requirements, they may now apply for the issuance of their COC, and they can now be deployed. Now, there are two levels for officers, what we refer to as the OIC or the operational level. This used to be referred to as for the deck department, third mate and second mate, and for the engine, fourth engineer and third engineer. For the management level, we have the chief mate for the deck and master, and for the engine, we have the second engineer and the chief engineer. Now, to ensure that they are really competent and qualified as required in the STCW under Regulation 111, they need to validate or revalidate their certificate. So, the revalidation of the STCW certificates are also being undertaken by the certification division to ensure that they can demonstrate continued professional competence, as I have said earlier, as required under Regulation 111 of the STCW Convention. What are the requirements for one to have their certificates revalidated? Again, on the screen you can see 5 requirements. This is exactly taken from the STCW under Section A111. So, for seafarers who had been asking why they have to revalidate their certificate in spite that they are active seafarers, this is the question of many seafarers. They're saying, aktibo naman po kaming seaman, bakit kailangan namin kumuha o i-revalidate ang aming certificate? Dahil po, ito po ay requirement ng STCW. This is explicitly stated under Section A111. First, para ma-revalidate mo ang certificate mo, kailangan mo ng approved seagoing service performing functions appropriate to the certificate that you have. Either 12 months in a total during the preceding 5 years, at least 12 months for the last 5 years, or 3 months in total during the preceding 6 months immediately prior to revalidating. So, kung ang certificate po ng isang seaman ay na-issue noong 2015, December 2015, dapat mag-revalidate na December, dapat mag-revalidate siya ngayon. Kasi ang ating regulations dapat 6 months prior to the expiry. Or kung hindi man siya nakabuo ng 12 months, pero nakasakay siya ng at least 3 months. 6 months prior nag-expire kanyang certificate. So say for example, December 2020 mag-expire ang kanyang certificate. At nakasakay siya noong July hanggang November, pwedeng magamit ang kanyang sea service for revalidation. Or kung hindi man siya nakasakay, kailangan nag-perform siya ng functions to be considered as equivalent ng sea service na yan. Or meron po tayong, itong number 3, maraming nagtatanong sa atin, like, he has already COC as master mariner. Pero for the last 5 years, hindi pa rin siya nakasakay. Chief mate pa rin siya. How can he revalidate his certificate? All he has to do is to take a practical assessment para ma-revalidate ang kanyang certificate. Itong 4 and 5, hindi pa explicit ang ating requirements dyan. So, itong number 3 po ang ating yung number 1 at saka number 3 po ang ating pinapatupad sa ngayon. But in addition to the sea service, meron pa po tayong requirement na mga refresher courses. Again, ang refresher courses na yan ay makikita sa section A111. What are these COPs? I am talking about the COP, Certificate of Proficiency, na kailangan nilang i-revalidate every 5 years. Ito po ang mga COPs nila under Chapter 6 of the STCW. Ito po ang mga safety. Ano po ang mga ito? Yung basic training, kailangan i-revalidate yan every 5 years. Pero covered lang dito yung PST at saka yung firefighting. Then, kailangan nila i-revalidate yung kanilang COP for PSCRB, for advanced firefighting, and fast rescue boat if required. However, I would like also to inform our seafarers, our listeners, or those who are watching us na there are other administrations who requires that their MEFA and MECA be revalidated. But in the Philippines, we do not require that. Okay, so next slide. Ayun, paano natin, kumbaga, upskilling ang term na ginamit, pero ano ba ang career ladder ng ating seafarers? If you want to become an officer, of course, you would start as an OIC. And basic requirement para umangat ka, kailangan sumakay ka. Sumakay ka ng at least 24 months. And then you can apply for examination and assessment for the next level, and that is the management level. Pero kailangan mo pa rin mag-attend ng training. Kasi the structure of our education is, the current structure is that yung BSMT, BS MARI, pagkatapos mo mag-graduate niyan, you become an OIC. So it is a requirement that you have to take a management level course before you can apply for examination and assessment for the management level. So once you have established your continued professional competence in your current level of responsibility, you may opt to upskill into a higher position through assessment of competence. But before you are accepted for examination and practical assessment, there are training requirements that you have to take. It used to be na hindi ganun ka-explicit po na kailangan mag-attend ka muna ng training. Maraming nagtatanong sa amin, kailangan bang mag-attend ng training bago mag-apply for examination and practical assessment? Yes, kailangan nyo po. You have to take first the courses, the required courses before you apply for examination and practical assessment. And for the details of these requirements, you can check our website, look for STCW Circular number 2018-05 and 06. Also 07. So these are our 3 circular governing examination and or these are the mandatory minimum requirements for the issuance of your certificates. Okay? So after the or during the pandemic, we have to think ways so that our seafarers would still be issued with their certificate. Our main issue actually was how will the seafarers be able to revalidate their certificates when there are no available training because of the lockdown. So what is it that we had done? Oops, next slide. Actually, we have our online system. We have launched this in 2017 jobs is fine, or 18. 2018. 2018. Yes, we have what we call as MISMO, or the Marina Integrated Seafarers Management Online System. We have launched this in 2018, and it used to be just an appointment. So a system, an IT system where our seafarers are required. So no seafarer can transact with Marina even for the issuance of their SRB if they don't have a MISMO account. So kahit kadete ka pa, pwede ka nang magkaroon ng you can get a MISMO account, and this will be a lifetime account, kaya wag ninyong kalimutan. Lalo na kasi ang problema parati namin is nakakalimutan ng ating seafarer yung kanilang mga password. So do not forget na after you sign up, this will be your lifetime user name, and do not forget also your password. Pero yun na nga, dahil nakakalimutan, our IT division do help in retrieving them. Pwede pa naman, pero sana wag kalimutan. While as I've said, we had this in 2018, we are improving this system so that pinaka-target talaga natin ito na wala na talaga tayong face-to-face transaction with our seafarers. It is our intention that we will be able to issue a digital certificate. Pero inaaral pa natin yan, kaya sa ngayon kailangan pa natin ang i-claim ito, ang certificates na to ng ating liaison officers or ng ating mga seafarers. Ang ating certificates pala ay pwede ma-claim sa central office natin. May mga satellite offices tayo. Of course, ang ating mga regional offices dito sa Maynila, pwede silang makapunta sa PITX, sa SM Manila, at saka meron po kaming satellite office sa POEA mismo. Okay. So that is our mismo. And then, para naman matulungan ang ating mga seafarers na patuloy makapag-attend ng mga required trainings, we have adopted the blended learning delivery of training, where we allow the maritime training institutions or the training centers to have an alternative mode of delivery of training course in order to minimize face-to-face contact between the trainee and the instructor and control the spread of the disease. In June, sometime in June, we have allowed our training institutions to conduct training, but we have mandated that they ano yun, parang i-divide into two. So our maximum used to be 24. So we allow only 12 at a time for every course para hindi po mag-converge ang maraming tao sa isang training institution. So with the blended learning, they can now go online and take the course ng theoretical online. Tapos, pupunta na lang ang ating mga seamen sa mga training center for the practical part of the course and for the assessment. So, sa ngayon po, meron kaming natanggap na mga application from our NTI. Meron kaming, as of September 9, meron kaming 8. There are 8 NTIs approved to use the blended learning in delivery of training. I think that's it. And also, we just would like to inform everyone that Marina initiated after IMO had issued a circular recognizing seafarers as key workers, we have initiated the crew change with the OTR. Even before the Joint Circular 01, meron na po kaming si Marina, meron na po tayong we have initiated the crew change protocol. And we are very happy na this was picked up, and finally it became a joint circular with the several government institutions implementing the green lane for seafarers. However, we would like also to inform you that there is a current amendment to this joint circular. It is dated September 4. Or August. Meron tayong proposed dito amendments to the guidelines for the establishment of the Philippine Green Lane to facilitate the speedy and safe travel of seafarers. So there is this amendment, Joint Circular number 01-8. So kailangan i-update natin ito. Joint Circular 01. So, on the screen, we have the procedure. Yan ang procedure na sinimulan namin at saka in-enhance through this joint circular.
Hello.
So,
Stop na po.
That's it on the part of Marina. If you have further questions, queries, we have our PID or Public Information Division headed by our very able Division Chief, Ms. Castillo, who is with me today. Or you can email them using this email address on the screen. And you can follow us in our page in the Facebook and other social media. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ma'am Fresca.
Yes, so we will have the question and answer later.
Yes po,
on.
after po si Attorney Gorecho, may isang speaker pa po tayo. So after him, we will reserve all the questions. So may we now call our next speaker. He is the head of the Seafarers Division of the Sapalo, Veles, Bundang, Budilan Law Offices. May we now call Attorney Dennis Gorecho, sir.
Good morning, everyone. and I will be presenting at tinatawag namin legal rights of the seafarers. Usually, I deliver these lectures sa mga schools, sa mga dorms, and kung saan may gathering ng seafarers. Yung binigay nga natin title ngayon is How to Be You po, kasi nga, pag seafarer ka, marami tayong mga issues na nire-raise. And lagi kong pinabanggit, next slide. Next slide. Ayan, we have to protect the seafarers rights kasi this next slide. Banggit nga natin isang case, yung Oriental Shipwreck Manchester Postol, a job of a seafarer is not exactly a walk in the park. Marami siyang issues na kinakaharap, and ito nga i-discuss natin. Next slide. Sino bang seafarer? Basically, based on the implementing rules ng RA 10.022, ito yung mga nakasakay sa mga barko sa labas na other than government ship and used for military and commercial purposes. And sinama na rin dito ating mga fishermen, cruise personnel, and yung mga to serve sa mobile offshore and drilling units. Next slide. Ano ba itong mga sources of seafarers rights? When you go out of the country kasi, hindi lang naman yan simpleng lalabas ka na meron kang gagawin. Meron ka rin kasamang bundle of rights natin na gagaling ngayon sa Migrant Workers Act, yung RA 10.022, nandiyan yung POEA contract, nandiyan yung labor code, nandiyan yung civil code, nandiyan yung Philippine Constitution, and nandiyan yung International Convention recommendation tulad ng Maritime Labor Convention, yung STCW, yung SOLAS and MARPOL. Yung mga issues na dinidil ng mga ating mga seafarers, basically, we can divide it into 5 major groups. Yung illegal recruitment, illegal dismissal, non-payment and other payment of salaries and wages, yung illness, injury, or disability benefits and death benefits. Later on, mas i-discuss natin the details. Isa sa binanggit natin kanina, ang major source ng kanilang right ay POEA contract. Ito yung isang dokumento na nagsasabi na basic minimum start, meaning hindi pwedeng bumaba dyan ang ma-receive natin seekers pag lumabas ng bansa dahil nga that's the role of the POEA to give them the basic minimum benefits under the contract. Pero kung ikaw naman ay merong union, meron collective bargaining agreement yan. Merong bibigay ng mas malaking benefits kung ikaw ay nagkasakit or na-aksidente. Tapos kailangan irespeto to ng both parties kasi nga bilateral agreement to. Yung employer, yung kanyang principal, at yung seafarer as the employee. Kailangan respetuhin nila yung naman yan. Lalo na kasi ang mga seafarers kasi natin, next slide, ay kinoconsider lang sila as contractual employees. Meaning, yung kanilang kontrata ay gino-govern lang ng kanilang period. Masyado maiksi yan. It's enforceable lang yan during the time that they hired and mataterminate yung pag expire. Ano ba ibig sabihin yan? Mag-i-expire to kapag dumating siya sa point na fired or mag-sign off sila for medical reasons, shipwreck, voluntary resignation, for other causes. Kasama na rin dyan yung mag-expire kontrata based on the contract. And ano bang sinasabi ng kontrata natin? Kailan nagko-commence and natatapos yung kontrata? It commences from actual departure sa point of fire, either airport or port, and it be effective sa actual arrival sa point of fire. So, during that time, enforceable ang rights sa ating mga seafarers, ang kanilang rights and obligations. Yung obligations, nabanggit na kanina ni Mr. Santiago, and yung rights natin, ito yung discuss natin ngayon. Basically, ang original nila dyan ay dapat walang lalampas na 6 months. Next slide. This is the summary of the POEA Starting Employment Contract na binanggit kanina ni Mr. Santiago. Mahaba yan na. Baliktaran yan, 6 pages, tas ang font niya ay sobrang liit, pero this is the outline. And ang problema sa ating maraming seafarers kasi marami dyan yung akyat baba, pero they don't understand the content of the contract. So, gagawin lang natin ngayon is bibigyan natin ng bird's eye view what's inside the contract because basically, it's a parang compendium yan ng iba-ibang laws, nandyan na rin, nandyan din yung mga rights under international law. And ngayon nga, we're drafting ng Magna Carta para mas ma-enforce ang rights and ang rights sa ating mga seafarers. Next slide. Kanina, binanggit natin sa one of the 5 situations na pwedeng kaharapin ng mga seafarers natin during pag may contact sila, itatawag natin dismissal. Ang dismissal kasi, ito yung matatapos ang kontrata ng mga seafarers natin because merong silang offenses or merong accusation sa kanila na either totoo or hindi. Ang basic rule lang naman kasi dyan, for dismissal cases, kailangan meron masundan yung tatawag natin due process. Dalawa yan, yung procedural and substantive. Ang procedural meaning, kailangan meron silang 2 notice and 1 hearing rule. First notice, ina-notify kung anong offenses na kinukomit ng mga seafarers natin. tapos hearing, ito parang sa korte, ibibigyan ng chance ang ating mga seafarers na i-rebut yung mga allegations na yan. And second notice, ito yung notice na pauwiin ka or i-repatriate ka because of yung mga instant grounds. And kailan ba fina-file to? Kailangan i-file nila yan if ever they're contesting the dismissal cases within 3 years from the arrival ng Philippines. Ang sinabi nga ng court dun sa Tanggaan versus PPC noong 2013, ang pwedeng mahabol ng mga seafarers natin kapag sila naging subject ng dismissal case at na-declare na illegal yan ay yung unexpired portion ng kontrata niya. Kasama dito yung basic wage and other monetary benefits like yung kanyang vacation leave and yung mga bonuses kasi nga ito yung lost income sa kanya. Next slide. Ano ba usually ang grounds? Ito, sa POEA contract kasi merong listahan yan. And it also appears sa Marina for the grounds ng yung para ma-apekto ng kanilang lisensya at sa POEA naman para hindi makakuha ng kontrata or ma-suspend sila or mapupunta sa whitelist ng ating POEA. Basically 1 to 21 yan. Pero ang madalas na encounter namin ay meron silang motherhood statement dyan. Ano yung mga motherhood statement? Subordination, competency, and efficiency. Parang lahat na minsan pinapasok nila dyan yan. And ano bang sinasabi natin sa mga seafarers natin? If you feel na meron ng ginagawang way para pauwiin ka na yung parang gumagawa na ng mga allegations na alam mong mali, mag-ipon ka na ng ebidensya. Kasi when you go to court dito sa Philippines, usually, ang nahihirapan ang mga seafarers kasi dahil wala silang access sa evidence or yung mga documents. Kaya usually sinasabi namin dyan is kung before ka bumaba, humingi ka na ng mga testimony sa mga kapwa mo seafarers. Pero ano bang nangyayari dito? Next slide. Marami ang madalas natatakot mag-complain, either illegal dismissal or yung unpaid wages. Kasi di ba sinabi rin kasi natin yung the POEA is the standard employment contract. It contains the basic minimum benefit na dapat bigay sa mga seafarers. So during that time, kailangan ang seafarer is sumusweldo kung ano yung nakasulat doon. Hindi pwedeng mas mababa or pwedeng maiksi or lower than that stated sa POEA contract. So ang blacklisting, ito minsan ang nagiging nefarious practice ng industry para huwag kang magreklamo ng unjust treatment, safety standards, poor working conditions, or paid wages ang mga bakit? Kasi may mga seafarers na kapag sila nag-stand to fight for their rights, mag-uusap-usap yung mga manning agents na yan na ito ay troublemaker. Actually, during the hearing kasi ng Magna Carta, sinasabi nila hindi naman totoo yan. Siyempre, hindi nila admit yan kasi dalawa yan eh. Isang watch list, ito yung ipafile ka formally sa POEA and sa Marina para either yung kontrata mo ay hindi ka makakuha, masuspend ka, or hindi ka na makaakyat, hindi tawag natin talaga, delisting. Tapos sa Marina naman, yung kanyang lisensya ay suspend or i-terminate talaga. So etong blacklisting kasi minsan, even if under sa Magna Carta ng sa ating mga OFW ay binabawal yan, nangyayari kasi nahihirapan makakuha ng proof na sila ay binablacklist. Ito yung isang tawag lang, pwedeng hindi ka na makakaya. Mas maganda pa nga na ireklamo pa sa POEA kasi at least yung pwede mo labanan. So ngayon, even if our seafarers are knowledgeable of their right, minsan ito yung nagiging bagahe nila na natatakot sila na baka hindi sila makasakay. Next slide. Pag ang isang seafarer, tulad ng sinabi rin kanina, it is not the life of the seafarer is not a walk in the park. You are prone to several perils of the sea. Yung aksidente, kasakit dahil sa weather, ma-injure, yung tas magkaroon ka nga yung biglang mawala ka, tulad ng recent news natin, yung mga lumulubog na bato. Merong mga medical and death benefits sa ating mga seafarers na pwedeng hugutin sa iba-ibang sources. Nandyan yung primarily, nandyan yung POEA Standard Employment Contract, nandyan yung sa OWA, nandyan yung sa ECC, and sa migrant law. Next slide. Under the POEA contract, ano ba ang basic rule lang dyan? May dalawa kasing requirement ang pinasok dito nung naging effective yung 2000 contract. Dalawang requirement ang dapat maintindihan ng seafarers at kung bakit medyo naging restrictive yung kanilang benefit ngayon. Kasi before the 2000 contract, pag isang seafarer ay nagkasakit, babayaran agad yan. Because when they implemented the 2000 version and it was reiterated sa 2010, pumasok yung work-related injury. So, dalawang requirement nila. During the contract, kailangang ma-detect yung sakit mo and ang sakit or injury mo ay dapat work-related. So, ano ba to? Ano bang definition? Next slide. Para maging work-related, dalawa ka na dyan, either illness or injury yan. Ang illness, ito yung mga sickness na nandun section 32-A. Pag injury naman, arising out of and in the course of employment. Next slide. Kasi kapag kinonsider nilang work-related ang sakit or ang injury ng mga seafarers, meron tatlong separate and distinct kinds of liabilities or benefits ng ating mga seafarers. Yung una, yung tinatawag natin sickness allowance equivalent to the basic wage nila, pero maximum po 120 days yan. Tapos yung pangalawa, yung medical treatment sa seafarer, and pangatlo, yung disability benefits based on the grading na ibibigay ng company designated physician. Either declaration to work or yung degree of kanyang grading. Tapos, ano ba yung occupational illnesses na ating mga seafarers? Basically, nandiyan yan sa section 32-A, 1 to 24 yan. Tatlong cancer, yung cancer of the epithelial bladder, as cancer of the eyes, and leukemia. And kapag ang sakit ng mga seafarers ay wala sa listahan na yan, ang pwedeng maging defense ng mga company ay hindi ka magiging defensible kasi wala sa listahan. Pero usually, meron din pwedeng gamitin ng mga seafarers para kanilang sakit ay makonsider as occupational diseases. Yung disputable presumption na nandun sa section 20. Ibig sabihin, kapag ang sakit ng seafarer ay wala dyan sa listahan na yan, ay disputably presumed work-related. And nandun nasa response naman ang kanilang bola para sabihin yun ay hindi work-related. Ang dapat tandaan natin mga seafarers, kapag kayo'y sumakay, meron kayong mga dokumento on your medical status na dapat yung intindihin na relevant in claiming any benefits under the contract. And ito, yung tatlong mas binanggit natin kanina. Meron tayong tinatawag na pre-employment medical examination. Ito yung before sumakay, titingnan ka ng doktor kung ikaw ay fit to work. And pag ikaw ay fit to work, sasabihin na pwede ka sumakay. Pero ang nagiging problema ng marami dito, nagiging ginagamit na defense ng maraming insurance ay yung mga pre-existing illness na tinatago nyo daw. So, ang advice lang po namin, kung kayo ay nasa PEME, huwag nyo itatago sa sakit yung hypertension, kung may heart condition, kayo i-reveal yan. And pangalawa, ito yung dapat ay merong nare-record sa loob ng barko ang lahat ng nangyari. So, yung dapat may illness or accident report on board the vessel. Huwag kayong bababa na tinatago nyo kung ano yung nararamdaman nyo. Huwag kayong feeling Iron Man, huwag kayong feeling Superman, naiinom lang kayo ng paracetamol, tapos okay na. Pangatlo, pagdating sa Philippines, kailangang magpakita kayo within 3 working days sa company nyo kasi i-refer niya kayo dun sa company doctor para titingnan kung ang sakit nyo ay work-connected at makita at para i-avail nyo yung 3 benefits na ating mga seafarers. Tulad ng binanggit natin kanina, yung sickness allowance, and yung medical treatment, and the disability grading. Ito yung disability grading. Ang sakit ng seafarer, basically, or yung mga injury status niya, illness or injury, yung binibigyan nila yan ng grade 1 to 14. Grade 1 is a total permanent disability, $60,000 yan. Grade 14 ang lowest, $1,870. Ang perfect example na lagi kong binabanggit dyan is ay kapag naputol lahat ng daliri ng seafarers natin, ay $60,000 yan. So pag naputol yung isa, 6,000. Pag naputol yung dalawa, wow. Pag naputol yung tatlo, 18. So 24, 30. Pero meron kasi tayong binabanggit dito yung next slide na meron kasi silang mga category dito na mga total permanent disability lang na may grade 1. Tingnan niya from head, face, eyes, chest, lung, abdomen, pelvis, hands, shoulder, and lower extremity. So eto, ang sinasabi nila na para maging entitled ka to total permanent disability, kailangan nandito yung mga grade 1. Kasi bawat part ng katawan mo, kapag may nangyari dyan, binibigyan ng grading na ganyan. Pero in reality, next slide. Ang definition kasi ng permanent total disability ay yung hindi ka na makabalik sa trabaho mo to earn the wages yung same kind of work or similar nature na kaya mong gawin as a seafarer. Hindi naman sinasabi dapat absolute helpless ka or feeble. Ang Ang kailangan lang dito is ma-capacitate ka to perform your customary work, and ang recent rules ng Supreme Court, meron silang tatawag na 120 to 140 days. 120, kailangang ilabas yung grading, pero pwede pa rin nilang ituloy yan hanggang 240 days with justification. Pero after 240 days, kapag wala pa rin grading or binadali nila yan, ang seafarer by law will be declared as permanent total disability. And tulad ng sinabi natin kanina, next slide. May mga grading sila na hindi naman dapat lower than grade 1. For example, yung nasa taas, yung total sa eyes, tingnan nyo. Total blindness, 1 eye. Grade 5 yan, kalahati lang. Or loss of 1 eye, total blindness ng 1 eye, so grade 7 lang ganyan. Sino pang seafarer ang kukunin nila kung ang kanyang mata, isang kalahating mata, ay bulag na? So marami rin tayong marinig. For example, tignan nyo to, ears. Complete loss of sense of hearing, grade 3. Almost, lang yan, $40,000 lang yan. Sinong seafarer ang kukunin ng manning agency kung siya ay totally bingi? Ito rin, ang shoulder and arm, total paralysis of 1 upper extremity, grade 3. Pero sinong seafarer ang kukunin ng bato kung siya ay total paralyzed ng 1 upper extremity niya? So sinasabi rin ng Supreme Court, hindi realistic itong schedule ng POEA kasi meron siyang isang definition na pwedeng kunin, yung nasa labor code. And yung pronounce ng Supreme Court, na kapag isang seafarer ay hindi na makagawa ng kanyang normal na trabaho at lumampas na ng 240 days at wala siya grading, i-declare siyang by law as total permanent disabled. At makukuha niya yung $60,000. Kapag isang seafarer naman ay biglang yung kinakatakot natin na mangyari ay mamatay, kasi tulad sinabi natin kanina, it's not a walk in the park. Pwede ka ma-aksidente, ma-injure all at the most, or yung pinakamasama mangyari ay mamatay. Dalawa rin ang hinahanap dito. Kailangan ang death niya ay work-related and during the term of the contract. Ika-qualify lang ho natin. Yung during the term of the contract, hindi naman ibig sabihin mamatay siya during the contract or habang nasa barko. Ang binabanggit lang dito, kailangan ang kanyang cause of death ay ma-detect habang nasa barko. Kaya nga, di ba lagi na binanggit natin kanina, na kapag isang seafarer ay merong nararamdaman, huwag siyang bababa na hindi siya nadodocument, because kapag bumabayan at mamatayan kahit ilang days after, pero terminated based on expiration contract, pwedeng maging defense na terminated contract yan, end of contract, tapos walang documentation on board the vessel. So ano bang benefits sa ating mga seafarers? Ito yan, $50,000 for the beneficiaries. Usually, ang beneficiaries sa POEA contract, ito nagiging matugo kasi pumapasok dyan yung mga second families, yung anak sa labas. $50,000 based on contract, sinasabing beneficiaries to those mentioned under the Civil Code provision on succession. So, legal wife plus yung mga anak sa legal wife. Tapos papasok din sa picture na rin niya yung mga anak sa labas. So, ang hatian dyan is one share yung legal na anak, tapos kung ano share ng legal na anak is also the share of the nanay, yung legal na asawa. Tapos yung share ng mga anak sa labas ay 1/2 lang yung share ng mga legal na anak. So 1/1 1/2. Pero meron ding share dito yung mga minor children below 21, additional to $7,000 for each child below 21, maximum of 4. So kung 5 yan, below 21, maghahati-hati lang sila sa 20,000 na yan, 5 na yan, or kung meron mang above 21, papasok siya dun sa 50,000, pero hindi siya pwedeng pumasok dito sa below 21 na 7,000 additional. Tapos merong 1,000 billion expenses as additional benefit. Next slide. So government side, yun nga, every time lumalabas ang mga seafarers natin, meron silang benefits na yung sa kanilang enrollment na $25. Nandiyan yung ito, yung disability, total disability at benefit. Merong 100,000 and 200,000 for death, natural, 100, accident ay 200,000. Next slide. Tapos sa ECC, nandiyan yung parang mga, usually mga amount na pwede ma-receive kung total permanent sila, permanent total, permanent partial, or death. So usually yung iba dyan, mga pension yan para meron silang continuous. Kaya lagi natin binamagit sa ating mga seafarers, i-check nyo lagi yung mga contribution nyo sa SSS, sa PhilHealth, sa yung lahat ng mga government para pag the time na meron kayong may mangyari sa inyo, malalaman nyo na merong kulang or merong hindi nire-remit ng ating mga seafarers. Next slide. Under sa yung tatawag natin RA 10-22 or yung Migrant Workers Overseas Filipinas, merong mga tayong na compulsory insurance coverage, accidental death, natural death, permanent of disablement, tapos ang repatriation cost, subsistence allowance benefits, money claims, compassionate visit, medical evacuation, medical repatriation. Ang medyo maganda kasi dito, yung A and B. Meron tayong tinatawag na no fault provisions, meaning if ever kahit na hindi ma-declare na work connected yan under the POEA contract, under the AMWA, itong Amended Migrant Workers Act, ay meron silang accidental death ng 15,000, pag natural death 10,000. Tulad ng mga suicide cases natin o yung mga cancer cases na ayaw na recognize or yung mga stroke. Kasi tandaan nyo, hindi lahat ng na-stroke sa loob ng barko ay nire-recognize sila as compensable. Talagang nilalabanan pa rin yun, namatay na nga sa loob ng kabina. They will still deny na compensable ang illness ng mga seafarers natin. So, pagdating sa AMWA, yung contestable issues under the POEA contract ay nire-resolve nito tinatawag na compulsory insurance coverage. Next slide. Ito yung magandang natin, like kung pinapanggit din, a seafarer's job is not exactly to walk in the park. Sinabi ng Supreme Court sa UPL versus Peseril, ang refusal niya to go back to work and mag-claim ng benefits, hindi yan dapat tingnan as unreasonable and impelled nating bad greed. Pero dapat tingnan yan kasi ang health consideration niya and natural desire ng isang person to preserve his life as long as possible. Dahil tao siya, hindi siya dapat i-penalize. Yun ang binabalik ko lagi sa mga counsel ko, yung mga respondent. Ng seafarer ay tao yan. Hindi yan material lang na kapag hindi na kailangan sa negosyo ay pwedeng isang bahala muna. Kaya nandyan ang POEA contract, nandyan ang migrant law para protectan. So pag sila yung nag-insist na kanilang right, ay tingnan sila as human being and not as troublemakers or yung hindi dapat sila penalize. Next slide. Yung illegal recruitment na basically marami kasing acts to nandyan yung mga advancing enlisting. Ang ano lang naman kasi dito, tingnan lang nila, like kung pinapagit sa mga seafarers natin, tingnan nyo lang yung listahan ng POEA. Kasi kung wala dyan yung nagre-recruit sa inyo, yung manning agency nang sasabi na apply kayo dito, pagpo-fall na yan under illegal recruitment. Pero kahit naman merong lisensya yung illegal recruitment, ay meron silang acts na pwede mag-fall under sa prohibited acts and illegal recruitment. Next slide. Yan, marami yan. A to M. Pero kanina, i-connect natin sa binabanggit ni Mr. San Diego. Basically, ang marami kami na-encounter dito ay yung pag withhold yung travel documents kapag hindi nakaalis ang seafarers at sinisingil yung kanilang ginagastos sa PEME, sa processing. Ang pinabanggit ko nga lagi dyan, that is not allowed. That is illegal under the law, under the migrant law, to withhold travel documents for monetary reasons other than the authorized one. So, marami na kaming tinulungan ng mga seafarers na sa requirements na to na naman sila, na sinasabi namin, under the law, you cannot do that because your license will be impaired. So, tandaan lang natin sa mga seafarers natin, basahin nyo lang itong yung mga batas, yung kontrata para maintindihan. Next slide. Ayan, yung law office namin, nandyan lang. So, located lang kami sa Makati, Iloilo, Davao, Cagayan de Oro, and Cebu. And thank you. Yun lang, sinasabi lang natin, sa ating mga dakilang seafarers, lahat po kayo ay meron po tayong karapatan under the law, under the contract, under international law, and ang sabi ko lang natin ay mag-ingat lang po tayo. Tulad binanggit natin kanina, the life of a seafarer is not a walk in the park. Ingat lang po tayo lagi at sana makabalik po tayo ng safe and sound, and prayers lang po tayo.
Ayan. Thank you very much, Attorney Correcho. We only have limited time, so meron lang po tayong tanong dito na naka-address po para sa POEA kay Sir San Diego. Can POEA assist sa mga seafarers na tumigil mag-support sa mga legal na families po?
Okay, sa usaping support kasi yan, madam, meron tayong allotee because of the allotment regulations natin. Ang allotee po ay dinedetermine po yan ng seaman kung kanino po niya ipapadala o ibibigay yung pinagtrabahuhan po niya. So hindi po pwedeng i-stop yung kagustuhan po ng seafarer kung kanino po niya ibibigay yung kinita po niya.
Can I add?
Yes, attorney.
Yes.
Actually, yung issue kasi niya, madalas nagiging problem ng mga seafarers pag sa underbowsy, violence against women and children. Dahil tama yung explanation kasi ni Mr. Sanjego na bilateral agreement lang yan, discretionary sa seafarer kung sino ibibigay. Ang nagiging problema kasi, pagdating sa pagdating sa bowsy, na-fall yung kanilang allotment issue dun sa economic abuse provision. Na kapag yung seafarer ay hindi mo binigyan, ang seafarer hindi binigyan yung kanyang legal family, hindi niya pwedeng takbuhan si POEA. Kasi si POEA pwedeng makasuhan niya ng wala siya sa jurisdiction. Or pag si manning agency, binigay yan dun sa wife, yung allotment na hindi mo nakasunod, pwedeng kasuhan si manning agency for breach of contract. Usually, ina-advise namin sa kanila, if you want to settle that issue, go to the regular court because that is a civil issue.
Yes.
Kung sino ang merong right over the allotment, ilapit nyo. Kasi hanggat walang declaration na dapat meron silang portion dun sa allotment na yan, the seaman has the right to determine kung paano ibibigay yan. And hindi pwedeng i-break yun unless there's a legal pronouncement.
Our next question, 61,716 na ang sea base na na-repatriate. Ano na po ang naitulong ng Marina sa kanila? Kasi madaming umuwi na seafarers na hanggang ngayon ay wala pang trabaho. Tanong po yan ni Mr. Alan Tulalian sa Trinidad and Tobago.
Si Marina.
Okay.
Apo.
We would just like to clarify na ang main function ni Marina is more on the issuance of certificates. But I think ang tamang hindi siya nasasagot dyan ay yung OWA. Although kami sa Marina, para sa mga aktibo naming seafarers, yung gustong sumakay, ang ginagawa natin ngayon is not on the livelihood but rather to ease the issuance of the certificates. So nag-extend tayo ng mga certificates for 1 year and also yung kanilang seafarers record book, we have extended it to 1 year without them, lalo lang yung nasa barko, hindi nila kailangan mag-apply. Automatic yun ma-extend, pero ang mga local, mga licensed manning agencies natin dapat i-submit ang kanilang pangalan para ang mga pangalan nila ay mailagay doon sa ating database at ma-update ang kanilang record. So doon sa tanong, siguro sa pangkabuhayan yan, I think is the right person.
If I may answer?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So, on the dole part, yes, tama po kayo na ang OWA po ang may in charge sa mga assistance na pwede pong makuha ng ating mga manggagawa o ang ating pong seafarers. Patuloy pa din naman na tumatanggap ang ating pong OWA mga nag-a-apply sa programang ayuda para sa ating mga seaman. Pero ating pong isipin na hindi po lahat ng mga seaman ay pwede pong mag-avail. No, yung pong ayudang binibigay ng gobyerno natin. Ang binibigyan lamang po ay yung mga naapektuhan during this pandemic. No, it reminds me again, it goes back, lahat naman naapektuhan lalo na dito sa ating bansa, no, marami tayong mga local workers dito, yung mga middle income earners na nawalan din po ng trabaho at hindi din po sila nakatanggap ng mga ayuda. No? Ang punto ko lamang dito ay may serbisyong binibigay ang gobyerno. No? Nandiyan yung mga AKAP program natin para sa ating mga manggagawa na pwede pong mag-avail yung mga talagang naapektuhan po. No? It reminds me na dapat ng ating mga OFWs ay tinuturuan talaga natin na mag-save. No? Na dapat paalalahanan natin na hindi lahat ng araw ay Pasko. No? Lahat ng biyaya natin ay inuubos natin sa agad-agad pag nakauwi na tayo ng Pilipinas. So kagaya ng pagkakataon na ito, so it's expected no, bilang isang manggagawa, lalo-lalo na sa nagtatrabaho tayo abroad, na dapat may ipon po tayo. No? It's a reminder to all OFWs na mag-ipon, no, para mapaghandaan po natin yung mga sakunang ito. Another program naman, no, nakatuwang po natin, no, ang ating pong Marina, no, nabanggit po kanina ng ating pong kapatid sa Marina, na meron na po tayong green lane issuance, no, na kung saan pinapabilis na po o binuksan natin yung ating pong mga terminals dito sa Pilipinas para po sa ating crew change. Yun po ay pagtulong din, no, sa ating pong mga seafarers na pauwi dito sa Pilipinas at gayon din naman yung mga paalis. So if those seafarers that are affected, they can apply to OWA, no, para sa ayuda, no, pero sa mga naghihintay na sila po'y makaalis ulit, makipag-ugnayan po sa kanila pong mga ahensya at tanungin na po kung kailan po sila makakaalis. Dahil patuloy naman po ang deployment natin, nakikita ko po sa ating pong system na patuloy naman ang deployment ng ating mga manggagawa. Marami po ang nagpo-crew change dito po sa pier natin, no, dito sa Maynila, at may binigyan din authority ng ating marina, no, mga parang 2 ports pa, no, to accommodate those coming vessels who will be having their crew change here in the Philippines. Magandang pagkakataon din na nagkaroon tayo ng pandemic, no, on the other side, no, of the story, kasi tinitignan po natin na gawing crew change hub ang Pilipinas, no, sana ma-sustain o ma-achieve natin yon, na kung saan magiging hub na ang Pilipinas para sa ating mga crew changes, hindi lamang during the pandemic, even sa mga susunod pang mga taon o panahon.
Okay, thank
Ma'am
you, sir.
Jodie.
Okay po. Ito pa po, sana maging 10 years na din ang validity ng Seaman Book para din na-renew pati ang SOLAS para bawas gastos din sa seafarers. And sino po ang... Yes,
Yung SOLAS na sinasabi, hindi na po siya SOLAS. Baka ang sinasabi niya po, yung certificate natin na, yung sinasabi ko kaninang COP, yung actually ano yan, yung basic kasi yan yung basic training. Yung binanggit ko kanina na every 5 years, kailangan nilang i-revalidate. So, yung BT or basic training, PSCRB, advanced firefighting, tapos yung fast rescue boat. Ito po ang kailangan nilang i-revalidate every 5 years. Gusto ko man nating 10 years yan, pero tayo po ay sumusunod ng isang international convention at yun ay hindi decision lang natin kung hindi that is an international requirement. So hindi po pwede po natin na-extend it to 10 years. Tapos po, yung SRB, I think si Miss Jobs ang pwedeng sumagot. Jobs? Pwede ba yun 10 years? Ating
Ma'am,
SRB.
it's already 10 years na po.
10 years na?
Yes po. Yes po.
Starting, kailan nag-start tayo?
Starting last year po, nag-i-issue na po tayo ng 10 years ang validity na sinus.
So there you go. 10 years na po tayo. Yan. So, sa mga active seafarers natin na ngayon, di ba, automatic ang extension ng, kung nag-expire na, automatic ang ating extension ng 1 year. Okay, so yan.
Kay Attorney Gorecho, sir, ano po ang remedy ng seafarers na tinatakot ng mga agencies pag may reklamo sila? Pwede daw po ba silang ma-blacklist?
Ang usually ang ginagawa, ang advice sa kanila, pag tinatakot sila, lipat sila, tapos if they want to file a case, pagbalik sa Philippines. Bakit? Kasi kapag ikaw ay nag-file agad ng case, pagbaba mo, dyan papasok yung tinatawag ng illegal blacklisting. Meaning, hindi yan sa POEA, hindi nila sa POEA gagawin yan eh. Kung sa POEA kasi legal yan eh. So, doon, pwede nilang harapin yun. Pero itong illegal blacklisting kasi tinatawag natin, isang tawag lang. So, anong remedy sinasabi ko sa mga seafarers natin? Mag-apply muna kayo sa iba. Pagbalik nyo, sa kanyang isang yung tinatawag natin mga administrative cases against sa company or yung illegal dismissal cases. Why? Kasi nga para kapag nakapag-file na kayo, hindi at nakalipat na kayo, nag-file kayo, hindi nila pwedeng harangan yung magiging employment nyo. Mas mahirap kasi yan na nag-file ka, tapos mag-apply ka, isang tawag lang yan, hindi ka na makakasakay niyan. Ang like kong binabanggit is yung mag-meta legal kayo. Alis mo na kayo kasi 3 years naman ng filing ng administrative case sa POEA, di ba sir? Sa POEA, sa NLRC, 3 years naman yan. So, they have enough time pagbalik nila after a year or after ilang months, dan nila habulin yung kanilang money claims or yung kanilang complaint against the company.
Okay. Do you have any other questions meron po tayong mga seafarers dito, si Paul Babiera at Nubay Cruz, and okay, nawala na yata si Dennis. Paul, you have a question, Paul? Okay.
May question dito, Miss Joji.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Paul? Yeah, Paul.
Hello po. Hi. Yeah, I would just like to ask a question. So the first one would be, how can we get I hope we can get a copy of the slides that we have discussed today. Tapos po, the second one would be, how can we be assured that we won't lose our jobs once we stand up for our rights? That's the sagot na po ni Mr. San Diego yung, would there be any livelihood programs that we would be having, since majority of us are displaced right now because of the pandemic. Plus yung a lot of people here applied dito sa Philippines to apply for ACA. Marami po hindi since May pa po, kasi there's a lot of people asking my help na paano ba siya maka-follow up. Since May po, nakuha lang nila is acknowledgement email, and that's it. Wala na pong news. Unlike po sa amin sa Polo, sa US po, nung nag-coordinate ako pinalaban, we were able to facilitate faster. Rather than dito po, since May po, hanggang ngayon wala pa pong balita about sa AKAP ng mga tao. And I have quite a number of people na asking for my help. I'm just waiting for an endorsement or something po na makakausap po diretso po sa kasi I have a group po of OFWs. Plus, is there anything else po that we can ask na besides AKAP po? Kasi po we were really caught off guard. No, mawalan po kami ng trabaho. Example, for us po, we were displaced for 6 months na po. So wala po pumasok na pera sa amin. Nagalaw na rin po namin yung mga savings.
Okay. Miss Georgie, you want me to respond?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. Yung concern as to may mga hindi pa napaprocess, totoo naman po yan, no, na may mga pending pang ginagawa ang OWA natin, yung mga nag-apply ng AKAP program. Siguro ang advice ko, ala Georgie, maybe you can endorse to the OWA, no, maybe Mr. Babiera can provide the list of those na nagpa-follow up, maybe through you can intercede in behalf of them. Ngunit naniniwala ako na patuloy naman na nagpa-process ang OWA. May mga additional funds naman na binigay dahil yung ating batas na naipasa, yung Bayanihan Act 2, ay naipasa naman ng Kongreso at nagkaroon ng additional budget ang OWA natin. Siguro patuloy na sila ngayon na magbibigay, maybe in the next few days makaka-receive na kayo ng mga feedback. Nonetheless, no, Paul, maybe you can seek the assistance of our Polo Washington. Maybe you can list down all those names no, nagsisik ng help sa'yo para ma-endorse ni Labat no, sa OWA to follow up personally kung anong status ng mga applications. Baka na-deny yan o baka pending lang naman. So, it would be best. Yung question mo, if there are other programs of the government that you can avail, meron. Madaming programa naman ng ating OWA. Nandyan yung kabuhayan program nila where you can have loans should you wish to have some businesses. Meron sila. Siguro better Georgie, no? In the next session, maybe we can concentrate on the OWA programs so that we can also share to our community what can they avail, how they can fast track the processing of their applications, whom to contact. Maybe we have to go back to the basics, no? As Labat Angela told me a while ago. Maybe we have to provide them on how they can get access to these services. And one more thing, during the budget deliberations, nabanggit din ni Admin Kakdak that they continue as well to provide scholarships sa mga relatives, no, yung mga anak ng ating mga OFWs, ng mga deserving students. So if in cases that they have some trouble, no, financing the educations of their children, this coming enrollments, maybe they can ask for such program and they can avail of it. No, maraming naman ang pagbibigyan ng ating OMA. So I believe this is a matter of, you know, getting those information so that they can get access to the services. Paul?
Thank you po, Mr.
Yes.
Sangico. With
Yes,
dun po sa kay attorney po, I have a question po. How can we be assured that we won't lose our jobs and livelihood once we stand up for our rights?
Tulad nga binanggit ko kanina, ano kasi yan that's the parang nefarious practice blacklist. Kaya nga, ang advice ko sa kanila is wag muna agad yung parang emotional pag-file ng case. Labas muna kayo just to protect yourself. Kasi hindi nyo kaya protection ng sarili nyo dahil hindi nyo nakikita kung paano sila nagtatawagan. Ang sinasabi ko is labas muna kayo para at least medyo stable na employment mo once nag-abot ka. You have a new employer. At least yan, hindi na yung maniniwala na palpak ka ganyan. Kasi nakita ka niya, nagtrabaho ka na maayos. So kahit tumawag yung luma mo dun sa yung nasaan ka na ngayon, tapos nag-file ka next year, hindi na pwedeng ma-block yung trabaho. That's the best advice na sinasabi ko sa mga seekers. Huwag agad magsasampa ng kaso. Kasi 3 taon naman yan. Huwag niyong madali. 3 years from the time na bumalik kayo ng Philippines.
Thank you very much.
That's the best advice.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Ito po, meron po bang desk ang Marina sa airport para makatulong sa pag-assist sa mga returning seafarers? Kasi OWA may desk sila sa airport. Ang TESDA meron din desk sa airport para tulungan ng mga OFW. Ang Marina po ba may tulong sa pag-assist sa kanilang seafarers? Para wag lang iasang lahat sa OWA ang pag-assist sa mga returning OFWs and seafarers. Ma'am Preska, that's a question from Alan Tulalian po from Trinidad and Tobago.
Meron po, actually mula nang nag-lockdown tayo. In fact, kasama ako sa health desk namin. Hindi kami huminto mag-serve. Meron tayong team na nasa airport. Ever since mula pa noong April, meron tayong nakadeploy.
All right. So, maraming salamat po. Parang nag-extend na po tayo. Okay. May isa pa pong meron pa isang question po pahabol. Di bumalik ang asawang seafarer. Ano po ang remedy?
Ano bang hindi bumalik? Bakit hindi nakabalik? Bakit hindi nakabalik sa kabilang
pumunta sa ibang bahay
ba?
na.
O kumakabilang buhay?
Kumakabilang dagat po siguro.
Actually kasi pag hindi bumalik sa bahay nila, tingnan niya kung nasaan. Kasi usually yan naging problem diba sa POA. Lumilipat yan pag iba na yung family nila. Minsan nahihirapan na kapulin yung And kung ganyan may family problem, they have to settle it civil, legally speaking. Kailangan i-trace kung sino talaga yung entitled sa support. Kasi usually, I think i-connect yan yung tanong niya dun sa dahil nawala na yung support niya. Napunta na dun sa second family. Tulad ng banggit natin kanina, yung allotment kahit kanino ibigay. Pero if you have questions, go to the regular court para magkaroon ka ng declaration.
Okay. So, meron pa ba? Okay, may we request copies of the slides discussed today po so we can disseminate to our members from Paul po.
Joji, may tanong lang dito tungkol sa extension.
Yes, sir.
Extension. Kasi ang natanong niya, marami nga hindi pa nakakabalik dahil sa pandemic na to. Ang right to repatriation kasi it came from the word repatriation, meaning you have the right to be repatriated in your hometown, in your major country. And under the contract kasi, kapag nag-expire, babalik ka kasi maximum 12 months lang yan. Di ba pagkabanggit kanina, maximum 12 months yung original contract. Pag na-extend yan, either voluntary or involuntary. Voluntary, silang dalawa mag-extend kasi gusto pa kumita. Involuntary, wala pang kapalit or walang convenient port. And nangyayari ngayon, talagang involuntary dahil sarado yung mga airport, yung mga ports. Ano usually naging issue ng mga seafarers na nilalapit sa amin? Yung kanilang sweldo. Yung marami kasi, I think nilapit na rin ito sa POEA and narinig ko si Admin Olalia, sinabi niya, kung ano ang sweldo nila under the original POEA contract, hindi dapat mabago yan. Because kung ano lumabas sa POEA contract, that becomes the basic minimum standard. Kahit na hanggat hindi nakabalik ng Philippines, ibibigay mo yung basic wage plus the other benefits. Hindi mo yan pwedeng palitan hanggat hindi nakabalik sa Philippines kasi hindi pa nag-terminate yung kontrata niya. And dyan, pumapasok din yung issue ng quick claims kasi maraming mga seafarers pagdating ng Philippines, tatanggapin nila yung panibagong yung substitute contract na mas mababa doon sa original POEA contract nila. And ang advice ko sa kanila, even if you sign that quick claim, that will not nullify the fact that you are entitled to the original benefits of yung other benefits under the original contract. So pwede pa rin kabulin yan. Pwedeng isang tabi yung quick claims yan because it goes against the concept of the POEA contract na puprotektahan mga seafarers kahit saan yan. Even this, in the time pandemic, enforceable ang POEA contract kasi it protects them.
Attorney Dennis, if I may add, so for the information of the audience and to attorney, there will be an upcoming governing board resolution that will be provided with the POEA amending some of the provisions of the standard terms to address the requirements of our seafarers during this pandemic. So maglalabas tayo ng panibagong regulasyon, adapting what has been recommended by the ITF and the JMG. All of those recommendations were adopted by the POEA. So we just wait for that, for the guidance of our seafarers. But more than of the monetary aspect, yung issue nung nag-question is about the stress, yung ating mga manggagawa na nag-over duration na sila sa kanilang work ngayon. It's already more than 12 months yung iba. This is also what I asked to our Filipino community who has relatives or who have relatives na mga seaman. Siguro yung support system natin, dapat palakasin din natin sa kanila. Mas kailangan nila tayo ngayon, bagkos nabigyan natin sila ng mga more stresses, dapat palakasin natin ang loob nila, yung mga mental health nila, na kung nabuburyong na yan, ano ba dapat natin gawin? Kung nabuburyong na yung mga kamag-anak natin, the more that we really have to support and provide them or cheer them up so that they can pass the pandemic or the situations that they are into. On the crew change, as I've said earlier, the government is trying its best to really address the crew change. And even the employers or principals are also heeding the advice of the IMO of repatriate already those seafarers who already been working long. Yung mga iba, kung sarado man yung mga ports, they even charter planes, kumukuha sila ng private planes to effect the crew change, yung pag-uwi at pagpalit. Some of the money agencies, they help each other, kasi mahal it will take them millions of dollars to just get one flight. So nagtutulong-tulong yung mga money agencies or even their principals to accommodate or to address yung requirements natin ng crew change. Others opted to come here in the Philippines, dinadala na nila dito yung mga barko nila. Kaya ang gandang sightings, Attorney Dennis, ating inggitin yung ating pong mga kababayan dyan sa US, na ang dami ng mga nakaparada dyan sa ating pong Manila Bay. Kung napansin mo yung mga cruise ships, yung ating pong mga traditional vessels, nandyan sila, they're waiting to repatriate their seafarers. Yun ang sasabi ko na I hope that the Philippines will be the next hub for repatriation or crew change. So yun siguro ang tugon natin. Yes.
Okay. I-add ko lang sa issue kasi na mental wellness ng mga seafarers. Basically, naging malaking issue din kasi dyan yung depression and yung suicide aspect ng kasi nga,
yes.
I think polo natin, I mean, encounter na ng suicide dyan sa sa US. Yung suicide kasi under the POEA contract, hindi nila yung kino-consider as as work connected. Pero dahil sa nangyari na tong depression na to, it will become a legal debate whether those who committed suicide during this pandemic will be compensable under the POEA contract. And I think it will be a legal battleground for the heirs of those who died because of depression. Kasi under the contract, kasi depression is not recognized as anything. Parang yun ang problema sa kontrata natin. hindi nako-connect yung depression na nangyari sa mga seafarers. I think, and maybe that's one aspect na dapat i-focus ng POEA, na tingnan nila yung effect ng depression sa performance and mga illnesses ng mga seafarers natin.
Yes, Attorney Dennis, I agree with your opinion on that. For the information of the body, currently we are reviewing as well the standard terms and conditions natin. Maybe Attorney Dennis, if you can also provide through the workers group ninyo to suggest possible amendments of our standards to include yung mga diseases na nakikita natin na compensable na siya or it's a work-related thing. No, it's about time that we have to review as well.
Okay, so thank you very much, sir. Before we end this webinar, gusto lang po naming imbitahin kayong lahat na sa September 19 ay magkakaroon tayo ulit ng isang webinar na entitled International Laws and Services of International Organizations for Our Seafarers. So before we end the webinar, may we call on our very supportive Consul General, Attorney J.V. Chan Gonzaga, for his closing remarks. Sir.
Thank you, Ala Joji, and good evening sa lahat, and thanks for all of those who stayed until the end. On behalf of Ambassador Romualdez at saka yung mga kasamahan ko sa Philippine Embassy, of course kasama na ang Polo WBC team natin. Maraming salamat to Director San Diego of POEA for a very comprehensive presentation, kay Ms. Frescali ng Marina at saka of course kay Attorney Dennis Gorecho. I think all of the presentations ninyo tatlo really captured all aspects of the problems facing seafarers today, not only in the age of the COVID-19 pandemic, but really in terms of what they face as the UPL cases. It's not a walk in the park, and I think many of the aspects of that difficulty had been highlighted by the COVID pandemic. Pasalamat din kami to our mga suki natin, of course, si Ate Net from Bermuda. Please keep safe. I know there's a storm or a hurricane coming at you. Si Laarni of the president ng Jamaica Philcom Association natin, si Miss Florita of Bahamas, she's president of FAB, and of course si Alan of Trinidad and Tobago, and Paul and Patnubay, thank you for joining us also this evening. I think I actually had two questions, pero I left it to the audience really to ask more during the Q&A. But I just wanted to siguro to put this on the table, and this is the beginning only, I hope, of a series of conversations about important issues facing our seafarers. So siguro mapag-usapan natin to in future conversations and obviously in our official engagements with POEA. Yung unang yung unang issue, and these questions actually I sort of found out about these issues when I was preparing to assume as Consul General. Last year, I went on a trip to Miami to join our consular outreach mission at that time, and I made it a point to go around and see the executives of RCCL, Norwegian, who are some of our biggest employers of seafarers, as well as talk to Filipino seafarers in the Filipino restaurants in the Miami downtown area. And yung unang issue actually napag-usapan na natin, and I think all of the speakers really dwelt on that, particularly si Attorney Dennis at saka si Director San Diego, the issue of mental health well-being. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, sinasabi na ng mga seafarers that we spoke to in Miami na it was an issue for them, and they thought it was not being given the appropriate attention, the appropriate counseling services. So, and now, as Attorney Gorecho said, there are a lot of these cases, and of course the legal issues of whether they are going to be compensable. But I think, setting aside the issue of legal liability, I think there's the issue of our liability as a government to make sure that our seafarers have protection in terms of their mental health well-being. So I hope that this is something that we can look into and work on, particularly post-COVID-19 pandemic, where I'm sure there are more and more of these cases and that are going to crop up, not just because of the normal pressure and the normal stress that comes with being isolated out in the ocean, but really in terms of what they experienced in the last 4 to 6 months during the repatriation process, which was not easy, as all of us know. The second issue po, and I'm happy that Ms. Preska is here, and I think your discussion of the STCW was very important. I'm sure not too many are familiar with all the debates, particularly with the European Union, but I'm sure you know, and I'm sure Attorney Dennis at saka si Director San Diego. The STCW issue is a very important issue. Again, jumping just back to the feedback that we heard from seafarers po, and this is something that perhaps we can talk about more moving into the future, is that many of them, of course, do not question the importance of recertification and reassess and standards assessment, pero they feel that many of the processes and requirements that they have to go through in between deployments actually eat up into the 6 to 8 weeks of vacation time that they have. So, and many of them say that some of the activities are redundant or unnecessary. I'm not going to second guess Marina there, but I just wanted to put that on the table, and perhaps we can think about that, because that also goes into the issues of family, of, because they have very limited time in between deployments, and we would want to minimize the disruptions to that. So those are the two issues that I hope we can continue to engage you on as we move forward, and I'm definitely going to follow up with Director San Diego and Ms. Preska. Let me just end, I think, by, one of my key takeaways is really from the presentation of Director San Diego, and I was very struck by the fact that we have this yung duties of seafarers. I didn't realize that we had that. I found all of them very relevant, particularly after 4 to 6 months dealing with them, dealing with their employers, dealing with their manning agencies in trying to get, like as Labat said, over 18,000, including si Paul, home back to Manila as soon as possible, and with all the limitations and the challenges and the constraints. And ito po yung, I think I just wanted to focus on yung one aspect of the duty to country, and them being ambassadors of goodwill. I think, in the 4 to 6 months, that has been reaffirmed to us. That has been reaffirmed many times by executives of the cruise lines to Ambassador Romualdez and to the embassy. They respect, they treasure, they cherish, they appreciate very much Filipino seafarers. And I think there are no better ambassadors of goodwill in the oceans, in the seas. And they touch so many lives. As Paul would know, they encounter so many people from all over the world. And the thing that they remember really is the Filipino smile, the Filipino warmth, the Filipino hospitality, and the quality of Filipino service that really stands out anywhere you go in the world. And whether there is a seafarer or a land-based worker, for us in the foreign service, they are always a source of pride, because they are really the best ambassadors of goodwill for the country overseas. So again, maraming salamat po for those in the Zoom meeting, as well as those who've joined us on Facebook Live. And Polo, thank you for organizing this, and of course our resource person. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay po tayo lahat.
Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat
Conjen.
po sa lahat. Thank you po. Thank you, and good morning po sa Philippines, and good night po sa atin lahat dito sa US. Thank you. God bless you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Po lahat, salamat. Magandang